Hello and welcome to a new episode of the CTO Show with Mehmet. My name is Mehmet, and in each episode, I discuss several topics from digital transformation, cybersecurity, and emerging tech. And as you know, sometimes I have with me also thought leaders, entrepreneurs, and experts who share with us their insights, experiences about topics related, of course, to technology and business. And today I'm very happy to have with me here in this episode Don Colliver, who's joining me from the US today. Don, can you just introduce yourself, what you do, and we can take it then from there?
For sure. Mehmet, first, thank you for having me. Super great to be on the CTO show. And where are you? Where are you based?
I'm in Dubai.
Oh, cool. All right. Well, it's probably the middle of the night or something for you. It's morning time here in the San Francisco Bay Area. But thanks for having me. Yeah, what I do, I speak at technical trade shows, primarily cybersecurity. I'll be at RSA and Black Hat this year, and I pitched a talk at DEF CON. We'll see if it goes. But what I do is deliver marketing presentations, but I try to make technical things understandable to non-technical folks. And I also help technical folks engage with their technical content with non-technical folks. And day to day here in the peninsula south of San Francisco, I teach technical public speaking at Google.
That's very cool. And actually, this topic, is very close to my heart because part of the things I used to do back is doing presentations for people who probably they don't understand tech. And the first thing, because when I was preparing for the episode, I did some research, and I found something very interesting about you, Don. Like you have a diverse background, from performing like Blue Man Group, presenting tech conferences. So, how do you think, your experience as like shaped, the way you can give the information and, this enhancement of the technical presentation in a way that, everyone can understand it?
For sure. Well, yeah, as you say, I have a pretty diverse background. Kind of the thing that directly connects to what we're talking about is I was a clown. I was
Wow.
with the Blue Man Group for a short time. I was a host clown for a company called Spiegel World and a North American tour. I don't know if any of your audience has been to Vegas and seen Absinthe at Caesar's Palace. I was the host, but for a similar show in North America for that. And a lot of that world is being able to really be conscious of the audience and interact with the audience and understand where the audience is and what I need to do to keep the audience moving on a journey. And there's a huge amount of crossover to technical presentations. And what I've found when I'm working with developers and engineers and cybersecurity folks is there's no lack of passion. Like people are extremely passionate about their content, but when it comes to presenting it, they're almost ashamed of their passion. But ironically, that passion is exactly what is going to connect them to their audience if they get confident enough and clear away the blocks to kind of just present themselves and connect with their audiences in that way. And the other thing, when it turned, like, I hate to even use the word clown because it has a bad connotation here in the
Yeah.
States, at least. But I like to think of more of the concept as clown presence, being standing up there and being authentic and really authentically connecting with your audience. And the second half of that is your audience and being aware of who you're speaking to and kind of starting where they're at. That's a particular challenge for technical folks because they're in their world all day long. And then when they walk out to speak about it, they think everybody's kind of coming from where they're coming from. And shifting to that audience perspective is critical when delivering technical presentations.
And I think you wrote a book about this, right, Don? The book Wing Transforming Public Speaking with Clown Presence. That's correct?
Exactly right. Yep. Thank you for pitching my book, Mehmet. I appreciate it. But yeah, it gives some basic techniques, not even technical specific, more how to I come from a long Toastmasters background. I'm sure you have like 5 Toastmasters meetings within 10 miles of you over there. Uh, uh, there's a lot of focus in traditional public speaking on getting the medium, really nice, like clearing up my filler words, making sure my gestures are okay. But there's a lack of, how do I connect? How do I engage? I didn't see a lot of that. And so that's what I focus on in the book.
Yeah. Like, of course, you talk in these big conferences like RSA, which is like, I think it starts after tomorrow, CES, Black Hat, and all these big conferences. Myself, sometimes being also from technical background, I sit in a presentation and, like I would be like just doing like this, say what this guy is doing. So, while on stage, what do you think are the most common mistakes you see presenters make at such events and how they can avoid that?
Wow, that's a big question, Mehmet. But I think, as I kind of mentioned before, virtually all of these problems will be corrected if your presenters or your audience asks 3 questions before they build their presentations. 3 questions about the audience. I'm sure they know what they want to communicate. But first, who's going to be in that room? Meaning, what is their level of experience and expertise? Like, what kind of definitions do you need to give? How deep into the weeds can you go? So first question, who's going to be there? Second question, what exactly do you want that audience to do when they're done with your presentation? And kind of have that sentence as a yardstick or meter stick, if you will, for all of our European folks, and hold that up against every part of your presentation. And if it's not contributing directly for what you want your audience to do, that's a great reason to edit it out. And the last question is, what's in it for the audience? Why do they care? And that should be the most important thing. You should lead with that. Like, Mehmet, you have this problem. What I'm going to talk about is going to show you how to solve your problem, and coming from that perspective. So those 3 questions are going to solve a host of other problems in your technical presentation.
And this is a very good point because I used to work as a pre-sales consultant and we were trained for this. How important is to structure? Because I see people do sometimes this mistake where they start pitching before understanding what the audience want, right? So how it's important to structure it in a way that, it will resonate with the audience.
I mean, very important, the answer. Are you familiar, maybe your audience is familiar with Barbara Minto's pyramid principle? It's kind of a classic business writing thing. One of the things that she spoke about in her book was the SCQA introduction framework. And I'll briefly explain it. And I find that this also solves a ton of problems for folks that are launching in, just like you're saying, before getting the audience on their side for the journey. So SCQA stands for situation, complication, question, answer. So situation, you kind of start by getting your audience nodding, saying something non-controversial. Hey, folks, we all hate traffic, right? Just something to get everybody nodding along. Then you add a complication. But traffic makes us late. Am I right? So this is the problem. So situation, everybody hates traffic. Complication is it makes us late. So then you ask the question, which is leading into your solution. So how do we solve this problem? How do we solve being late all the time? Then your answer is kind of your solution that you're delivering in your technical presentation. That's why you should buy my teleportation device or something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you're kind of starting where your audience is at, where they're nodding, saying what's the problem, which they also like, yep, that's a problem, I agree. And then you say, here's how we'll solve it.
Now, this brings the second question I have here. How important, because sometimes you need to relate things, how important is storytelling when you do public speaking?
Well, it's really important, but it's like a separate skill. It's something that takes work, and it's also kind of counterintuitive for technical folks. It does, because we all see it all the time when we watch movies, when we watch TV, that sort of thing. But there are some specific kind of almost fill in the blanks that can make a compelling technical story. However, I would like to, because sometimes when a manager gives a note, like, you need to tell more stories, we need more narrative, it's good to ask questions, because sometimes what people are looking for is context. Like, can you give me context to what you're talking about? And that just means, what's the driver of the problem for the audience? They want to hear, why do I care about this problem that you're solving? And from their perspective, that may be what they're looking for when they're asking for more narrative or story. But then there also, of course, is classic storytelling. And there are a few, there's 4 primary things that your audience could do to quickly add a story. First, you find a relatable protagonist. This can be a customer, it can be a founder, some kind of protagonist where your audience is like, yeah, I get that. Then there should be some kind of high stakes problem. This protagonist had a ton of data, had no way to sort it. So that's the high stakes problem. So you have a relatable protagonist, a high stakes problem. Then, and this is the weird part for technical folks, you need to give setting. Talk about emotion and setting. This is what makes it a story. And we were really stressed. It was coming up into the end of the 4th quarter. It was fall outside. It was really cold. And there was a lot of pressure in the office. This feels really weird to add to a technical presentation, but it kind of adds to the story. It makes it a story. And then lastly, the last important thing for a story is there needs to be a conscious decision where the protagonist says, you know what? We're going to fix some kind of a filter and make this data make sense. So that's the conscious decision. The problem is not the story. The trauma is not the story. The decision is the story.
Yeah, that's very insightful, Don, really. Now, I don't know how, but when I shifted roles, I used to sit on the customer side, if you want. I was like a sysadmin, kind of introvert, and all of a sudden I was thrown in front of like hundreds of people. I didn't face this, but when I talk to peers, at least in the tech industry, one of the things that they tell me is, like, we get so nervous when we are on the stage. Like, we are shivering. We don't know what to, we have the ideas, but all of a sudden we lose it, right? So what advices can you give for, people who have to do that public speaking in front of like large audiences? And I'm speaking, of course, here about anything related to our industry, like tech industry.
Absolutely. Well, first, both you, Mehmet, and all the people that say that, you're not alone. Every single person in my technical public speaking classes, their primary goal is to get over anxiety and nervousness, like without fail. And me too. I get super nervous. I think everyone gets nervous before a presentation. So first, you're not alone. The challenge becomes when it becomes paralyzing, right? When you start losing your memory or stuff like that. So I'll give you 2 quick takeaway tips. First thing, and this feels very obvious, low stakes practice. That's why I'm a fan of Toastmasters. I'm not crazy about all their content, but it's a weekly thing. You get up, everybody generally gets to speak in front of 10 or 12 people every single meeting. And so if you're a person who makes one really important presentation every 2 months, of course you're going to be terrified. But if you're giving low stakes presentations all the time, it'll be a lot less concerning. And this last tip, this is a little more internal, but this is the one that really works for me. When I'll be coming up in front of some high stakes folks, executives, C-suite, when I'm speaking in front of powerful folks that know a lot more than me about a lot of things, usually I'm there because I know more than them about something, and I'm there to be of service. I'm there to help them understand what I have. All I am is a medium. All I am is a pipe for that information. All I need to do is figure out, listen to them. What do I need to do to make sure that you can understand this information? And it just kind of helps my ego step completely out of the way. So I call it a service mindset. If you can shift to a service mindset rather than a mindset of, I hope they like me, I hope they do this, I hope they like me, it will take the pressure off you, the speaker.
I agree 100% because this is also how I reach a place where I practice, right? So it's something resonate personally with me before going to even just a normal meeting. It doesn't have necessarily to be a presentation. I had the chance to represent, my former employers on, stages, Gartner, IDC, and such stuff. And, like, yeah. And I was telling myself, look, like these are like normal people like me at the end of the day, right? So just be relaxed and just, go and do it and you will do fine. Now, one thing I notice all the time, especially in the big conferences, and the most engaging presentations, because also I was attending sales kickoffs and so on, the most engaging presentations I attended were ones with visuals, like with charts, maybe some videos. What is your take on this?
Oh boy. Take on visuals. Well, there's multiple books on this stuff. Some of which, again, I don't completely agree with. I think, especially for technical presentations, having a picture of a beach and one word that says "believe" is not going to make your audience
Excited.
inspired. Yeah, but I think learning techniques for data visualization is extremely helpful. And there's a great book called Storytelling with Data. Last name of the author is Knafleck. And this seems to be kind of the current Bible of that world.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of the classic guy. His name is, what's his name? Tufte. Edward Tufte is kind of the godfather of this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's real deep. And if you have some data viz folks in your audience, I'm sure they're aware of Tufte. But for the less focused, I think storytelling with data is a great starting point. And I think the basic takeaway is do the work for your audience. Don't just dump all the data on screen and then expect your audience to like sort through it. You sort through it and put your results on screen. And that could mean having a chart and then having a big arrow with the title
Mm-hmm.
on the top saying your intended insight. But basically, if you put a chart up there with undigested data, that means your audience isn't listening to you for a while. All they're doing is like, okay, what is this? How can I find a different conclusion that he's trying to sell? Just take that entire dialogue away and give them your conclusion.
I will go a question outside of what I have prepared here because you just mentioned this. What do you think about even not using a slide deck at all? Because I've seen people who do and talk to technical people without one single slide. Maybe they have just their names behind them, but they have this way of really catching the audiences. Like, what do you think about it?
Oh, that's amazing. Oh man, it just reminds me there's this famous demo. It was a meetup in New York City. Shoot, maybe it's a Twilio demo. And the founder, he coded in real time an app, which then texted the entire audience in
Wow.
the room in real time. And you saw him building it and correcting his code on the screen. I think if like absolutely, if you can throw away your deck and get more engaged with the audience, what do you think you're going to remember? Like something that affects Mehmet in the audience in real time, or just sitting back and ingesting like I'm watching Netflix of some guy that I could easily have time shifted this and watched a video of it? Is there some way that you can make it present and happening in that moment? That's going to be the most memorable way to deliver your solution.
Yeah, I agree with you, Don, actually. I have still like two questions for you for today. So I'm sure that many of the audience who would be watching or listening to this episode, they have, inside this aim to increase their visibility, whether inside their companies or maybe in the industry that they are in. How can delivering a compelling technical presentation, you think, help them achieve this? And what are the potential career benefits for someone who, I would say, master the technical presentation?
Oh gosh, well, I should ask you, Mehmet. I mean, why do you have a podcast? Did you become a thought leader just by the nature of stepping into that world, you
Okay.
know?
Thank you for saying this. Yeah. Yeah. Probably it should be a question for myself, but I always like to take, the opinion of an expert also as well, because I figured out quite long time back that being very good technically, being good in communication without, doing excellent presentation and catch the audience at, attention, it will keep a gap for you. And for me, one of the things, because I love to speak, this is matter of fact. And when I do presentations, I try as much as I can, especially when I was working in a pre-sales or technical consultant role, not to go deep dive in the technical aspects into more how this will benefit the business. So, and this then the whole thing behind the podcast actually, Don, is how we can go talk to business people who might or might not have enough knowledge about the technology itself, but we can deliver the message for them why this technology, it can increase your revenue, it can decrease your costs, blah blah blah, like this is the way I've seen it. And I think, I was pretty lucky to have the chance, as I told you, to do presentations for big customers in like major events, at least here in Dubai. And even sometimes I was doing it for other colleagues globally in sales kickoff events and so on. So yeah, this helped me a lot. Yeah, but as usual, I like to hear it also from the expert. This is why I ask you the question. Final question for you, before we finish. Just because, I see this energy in you. Now, can you share any anecdote or experience from, that showed how effective communication, it created a lasting impact for you and the audience, like as maybe final thought on this topic also as well?
Uh, well, I could tell you a story from my clown days, where I kind of first had an insight as to what made an audience lean forward and pay attention. There's a classic terrifying exercise in clown presence work. It's called Save the Show. And that's where the class sits in the audience and the student is on stage behind a curtain. This teacher also sits in the audience. The task for the student is to enter the stage and make the audience laugh with absolutely no preparation. And the teacher has given the instruction to the audience, absolutely no pity laughter. You can't laugh because you feel bad for the person. You can only laugh if you legitimately are involuntarily made to laugh. So, needless to say, it's painful. Like I did it. I tried everything. Silence. Like I'm running around, I'm sweating, I'm going like this, I'm running into the wall, I'm pretending to fall down. They were hating me. Just silence, just pain. And in my brain, I'm panicking. What am I gonna do? Like, so I'm just like, it was hot, like my shirt was sticking to me. So finally, I stopped in the middle of the stage. I connected with myself. I looked in the eyes of in the audience and I said, what do you guys want? And that moment, everybody laughed. The moment I acknowledged the energy between us and I stopped focusing on me and I started focusing on what's between us, like that was the moment I connected. And that was the moment I was like, oh, it's not how good I am. It's how seen I am. It's how
Mm-hmm.
present I am. That's what makes me engaging. So it's a huge pressure. It takes a lot of pressure off because you don't have to be a perfect presenter. You just have to be a present presenter.
That's spot on, I would say again, because no one can be a perfect presenter from day one, and maybe I'm giving this advice for people who they are just in the early stages is also of their career. But yeah, like I agree 100%. So Don, where just, I said the final, but final one, where people can learn more about you and maybe follow you.
Sure. Well, first of all, if any of your audience wants a free exercise to build your engagement, I like to say the perfect presentation is kind of balanced between focusing on your content and focusing on connection with your audience. And if you want an exercise to work on that, just go to doncolliver.com/tech engage. Tech engage. They can get a free PDF for that. Otherwise, just go to winktechtalks.com. That's info about my class. And I'd love to just connect with folks on LinkedIn. That's primarily where I live.
Great. I will share all these links in the episode description and on the YouTube description as well. Well, Don, thank you very much for joining me today on this episode. It was really engaging.
Thank you, Mehmet.
Really engaging. And at the end, as usual, if you are watching this on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. If you are listening this on your favorite podcasting platform, again, don't forget to subscribe. Tell your friends, tell your colleagues, as we are bringing guests, special guests in each episode from now on. And until we meet in the next time, thank you very much. And we'll be seeing each other next time. Bye-bye.